Okay, everyone, I think we're going to get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining so far. My name is Nomi Kolios. I'm the Customer Lifecycle Specialist at Freightos.com. Some of you might recognize my name from emails that I send you, and I'm very excited that you joined us here today. If you were able to join us for episode 1 of From Here to There, Importers Talking About Real Solutions, or if you caught the recording afterwards, you know that it wasn't just any typical lecture-like webinar. It was dynamic. It was a real conversation between Ari Corman from Freightos.com and an actual importer. So today we promise you the same thing, and I'm really excited to welcome our guest importers, Alex Renaud, CEO and co-founder of Nolk, and Jason Yan, the Global Supply Chain Manager of Nolk. But before we jump in and have them speak to us, this isn't just a conversation between Ari, Jason, and Alex. It's for you too. So we've actually designated some time at the end for Q&A. So during the conversation, think about different questions you might have, different challenges that you're facing, and feel free to submit them in the chat, and we'll try to get to each question as best as we can and even answer some on the spot as you're sending them in. So really, we're excited for you to be part of it as well. It's not just for them, it's for you too. So let's talk about the agenda for a minute. I'm going to give you a very quick overview of Freightos.com. Then we'll dive into the fireside chat and then the Q&A. And people often ask us, are we going to be recording? So the answer is yes, we're recording. There's no need for you to take notes. If you're doing other work while listening, that's cool. If you need to do laundry or cook some food, feel free to do anything you need to do and just enjoy, and we're going to send this out to you afterwards. So a quick word about Freightos.com. Some of you might already know that we are a digital freight platform that connects small business importers with logistics providers from around the world. And our goal is to make the entire freight process simple. So what that means is that we have a platform where you can compare different freight quotes in minutes, if not seconds, actually book the shipment there on the spot, and then track it every step of the way. Okay, so let's get started. Alex and Jason, it's such a pleasure to meet you and to have you guys here today. Why don't you guys jump in, tell us a bit about who you are, what you do, and tell us about Nolk.
All right, I'll start out. I'll let you, Jason, after, and we'll tell a little bit more about Nolk. So hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for Freightos to having us today for that webinar. Really appreciate the opportunity. We love what you do, guys, and so on, and you're key in our business success. So I'm an investor and also an entrepreneur, so co-founder of Nolk and CEO as well. Before that was in the digital music space, was running like premiumbeat.com that we sold to Shutterstock. Before telling you a little bit more about Nolk, what we do in the market and so on, I'll let Jason introduce himself.
All right. So hello, guys. My name is Jason, and I'm the supply chain manager at Nolk. But first of all, I would like to thank Freightos for having me here. I'm very excited to be part of the webinar and share all my experiences. So I actually started working at Nolk in 2018. And I'm responsible for all supply chain activities, including sourcing, transportation, or freight forwarding, warehousing, and fulfillment. But I actually don't do any of the job personally. I rely on all my third-party partners, including factories, my freight forwarders, and my fulfillment partners. So I consider them as my important friends. So today I will definitely talk about how I found these important partners and help scale up the operations side of the business.
All right, and thanks, Jason. So about Nolk a little bit. So Nolk, with what we do, essentially we scout the market, we acquire a brand, and we fold them into a portfolio where we operate and try to scale like those brands and amplify them in a process. We also develop some proprietary technology. So when we started Nolk in the beginning, it was end of 2017, and we were looking for a new business idea and so on. And we looked for business to acquire, and we've found that the e-commerce market, there was a lot of new people starting new brands, new product, a lot of ideas and so on. But entrepreneur had a really hard time at a certain scale to continue to grow their business. Like for many reasons, like it can be access to capital for inventory, spreading another market, like having more money for marketing, getting a full-fledged team also, like all challenge that, small brand face like before reaching a certain size. So we say, well, we're gonna offer like those entrepreneur an opportunity actually to exit or join us and be part of a larger ecosystem. And now you're a team of specialists like to do that and trying to automate everything in the process. How do we do that? Like also, and we have our own like proprietary software called GeniusWire, where we scout 2 million websites, social signal, traffic, and so on. And we're trying to identify a pattern and see like when brands or e-commerce website like reach a certain critical point, and then after that, like we reach out. We also have a lot of people like talking to us or writing to us, like, and when the time is right, that we can design like a solution and bring them inside Nolk. So I'm gonna let Jason like talk like most of the time with Ari and the people from Fados. He's been like in the business like nearly since the beginning. Jason is our secret weapon. He's been able to also help us getting a strong supply chain and fluid logistic with Asia specifically, where a lot of our manufacturing partners are located. So that's it. That's about Nolk. I'll let you, Jason, Ari, continue the chat, and I will jump in like if there's anything like that. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Alex and Jason. So again, my name is Ari Corman, Vice President of Sales at Freightos.com. And it's really exciting to be with everyone today. I know that many of you are working from home, if not almost everyone is working from home. And everyone is really, every small business, every entrepreneur is dealing with a lot of challenges in light of the COVID-19 pandemic and with all the curveballs that come there in terms of supply chain. So I thought it was really a great opportunity to hear from an expert in this, and excited to speak with Jason and Alex to understand some of the secret sauce, how to overcome some of the challenges to really be able to build, scale a successful supply chain, especially when it comes to sourcing, when it comes to multi-channel fulfillment, and really overseeing this entire thing. The theme of our webinar, as it was in our first one a few weeks ago, I encourage everyone to watch that as well, with Parker Baby, is from here to there, really from here, from your sourcing to there to your end customers. And why don't we just dive in, Jason? And I'd like to ask you, and this has always been a question I've had when speaking with supply chain experts, really, like, what are the criteria you look for when it comes to finding a supplier? And how do you manage that quality, the supplier quality, as part of that?
Okay, so first of all, nice to meet you, Ari. Sourcing in China, I would say, is the easiest, but also the hardest. Because, on one hand, there are tons of suppliers on the market we can choose, but on the other hand, there are both, good ones and bad ones. And, it's very hard to tell which ones are the best. And yeah, but personally, I do have some experience sourcing from China. So first of all, the main criteria that I will look into is their quality control process. Because for e-commerce, it's so critical and everything's so transparent, and the customer, they don't like your product, they will write bad review and everyone will be seeing it. Mm-hmm. So that's so important. So every time when I source and look for a new supplier, I would definitely check their quality control process. And it's so crucial. Other than that, I would check the size of the factory for sure, because right now we're growing very fast and we definitely need the best manufacturing capacity in the world. And so I would definitely ask them, something like, how many employees do you have? How many factories do you have? What's your monthly capacity? Stuff like that. That's also very important.
And how many factories do you work with, by the way? Just out of curiosity.
More than 10. I would say like 14 or 15 in China, and one in UK and one in the US.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big job.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to do to manage all these relationships for sure.
Okay. And what kind of timeline is there usually, from template, like if you're basically, sourcing a new or looking for a new supplier, like to get it from, this is the prototype, it's going to take X amount of time, then we're going to evaluate it. Like what is the entire, I know that we only have a few minutes, so everybody stay attuned. So we'll try to keep it brief, but really like how long do you need to allow for, let's say from prototype to kind of production and then through to kind of final fulfillment? What kind of timeline is this? Kind of 3 months, 6 months? What is a realistic timeline?
That's a very good question, actually. It depends, I would say. For example, if it's more like stainless steel products or something like that that require molding, that can take a lot of time, even over a year, because molding, there are industrial design involved and there are so many factors. So definitely it takes longer. I would say at least 9 months to get it approved and make it work. But it's for easier product like textile and so mature, you don't need molding. What you're selling. I would say like 6 months, 3 to 6 months. If it's very common products, I would say 3 months. But it's less common products, I would say like 5, 6 months, something like that.
Okay. So I see here in the tips that, and obviously this is something important. So developing that relationship, you mentioned quality as being a very important ingredient, and also the size of the supplier. But being that you're sourcing primarily from China, are there any other tips you can give specifically about like Chinese suppliers? Like, are there any sort of commonalities? Are there any sort of questions to be aware of? Are there any different ways of operating specifically in China, maybe that are different from your experiences in other countries that everyone listening today should be aware of? Interacting with China, especially if they're not able to visit China. And I know a lot of a lot of people listening today may have found a supplier on Alibaba, and they may not necessarily have visited their supplier. So any other helpful tips and kind of what to ask or what to be aware of or cultural differences, etc., would be very, very helpful, I think, for those listening.
Okay. So first of all, I can mention some essential questions to ask to the supplier. I think you can definitely get a general idea by asking these questions. First of all, I think will be basic question like what's your monthly production volume, or how many number of full-time employees, as I mentioned, or years in business. So right away what's the size of the company, right? And afterwards will be definitely very, very essential to ask their MOQ and lead time. Definitely for some smaller business, MOQ is so important. If they ask for too large MOQ, it doesn't make sense to work with them at all, right? And then we'll be asking their business model. I would say, there are tons of trading agents in China as well. And there are real factories. It depends on your needs. And personally, I prefer working with factory instead of trading agents because I have more control on the whole production process. And also other questions like, certificate, if they have any certificate, you can use like something like ISO 9000 or FDA or SGS, stuff like that. You can see like their quality control process. And also definitely, ask for a product catalog, like see what's their product variety, like what kind of products do they produce. And another thing that I will ask personally is that if they, for some production process, if they do in-house or they outsource it to another factory as well. From my experience, we sell stainless steel tumblers on Amazon. And there are tons of, it's an easy product, right? It's just a tumbler, but it takes 5, 6, or even 7 steps to actually produce the products. There are coating, there are, have to make it vacuum, stuff like that. There are tons of small steps in the middle. And I would definitely ask if they outsource or if they do it in-house. Because,
is there a risk if it's outsourced? Is that a red flag that maybe?
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. Because, there are quality control involved because it's not their factory, and when they outsource it, and they might not be able to share all the important quality control standards with the other factory. And
Right.
when they receive it, they might don't check it carefully. And at the end, the product might not be perfect.
And just by the way, so the audience knows, you may not find Nolk as the brand. Nolk is actually, it owns a number of brands. For example, cookware. So if you check out Kana, K-N-A-A, KanaLifestyle.com, or they also sell obviously through Amazon. So a lot of the focus on these products are about good, and this specific one is goods made better. And I think in terms of where you are in the market, it's not, the highest end, most expensive, but it's also not an economy brand. It seems to be kind of a high quality brand that people can, rely on and can then use as part of their life, basically. And obviously then that fits into the types of suppliers that you're looking for, Jason, right? I mean, you're not looking for necessarily the cheapest nor the most expensive, but something that will produce kind of quality merchandise and then be able to scale, I guess, as well. Being able to kind of produce at a decent clip and a consistent clip.
Yes,
as well.
exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And Incoterms, we have to know what Incoterms should we ship on? We're going to have at least 5 questions about this. So let me preempt all those questions. What Incoterms should we ship on? What do you recommend, Jason?
Okay. Yeah.
Don't worry, we're only recording this, so we won't.
Yeah. In China, there are only 2 popular Incoterms, which are FOB and export. So FOB basically, it means, the factory is responsible for the cost of moving the goods to the original port in China. So basically, the buyer needs to do is to pick up the goods from the port in China. And the X work, that means the factory is only responsible for providing customs clearance documents. So what we need to do is to pick up the goods directly from the factory. This basically, what it means for these 2 Incoterms. There are also other Incoterms like DDP or DDU, stuff like that, but it's not as usual as the first 2. It's mainly for, smaller items, custom factories, they can easily ship by UPS or DHL. So they take care of everything, basically. DDP means they take care of everything to your door. So
and is Nolk shipping primarily FOB or Ex-Works terms, or depending on the supplier?
For me, I prefer FOB for sure, because the Chinese factory normally they have good local partners, and they definitely have a better rate. But however, there are one thing that I want to point out, because some local factories they don't really have a local partner, and they actually use the same folder. They actually use our folder to do the job, and then just us to build them back. So some folders, for them, in order to get the business, they will charge less on us, and it looks like they're the cheapest, but actually they move the cost to the shipper. The shipper might get pissed because I've never got charged that much. So this is something that we definitely need to care about. And also, to avoid this, I would recommend, you either ask the factory, if they have a local partner or not. If they don't, you can just ship by X-Work instead of FOB, because it's basically the same thing.
Okay. And but we're gonna continue the conversation just for another about 10 minutes or so. I see lots of questions coming through. So I'm just going to actually, on the topic of Incoterms, because I see 2 questions about it. Jason, when your suppliers propose other Incoterms, for example, FCA, how do you deal with that? And that's let me just ask that question, and then I'll ask another one I see as some relevant questions are coming in. So just regards to FCA or other types of Incoterms that your suppliers request, what is your advice?
For me, FCA normally means we have to take care of the transportation at the destination port. I mean, from the port to the warehouse. Well, if you have a good partner in the US or in any country, in destination country, I mean, you can definitely do it. But personally, I don't want the hassle. It's too much work. There's a lot of coordination work in the middle. I don't recommend doing it. I definitely prefer FOB instead of FCA.
Okay, and I'm going to get Alex involved here as well. So there's a question in terms of the suppliers. It sounds like Jason's doing the QA or the quality control process, but then there's also the element of kind of the commercial in terms of, I guess, trade terms or what percentage of payment is required at each stage of production. So if you could just walk us through, Jason or Alex, I'm not sure who handles the commercial discussions.
Jason, commercial discussion is done by Jason with our brand manager. So I can let you go on that one.
Okay.
Like Jason, yeah. He already had prepared like some material on that.
Yeah,
so what percent is required kind of pre-production, and then at end of production? What are the standard trade agreements usually?
In China, the most standard way is to pay 30% as deposit, like before they do any production, and then 70% before they ship out the goods. That's very standard. And if they are more generous, they ask for the 70% when the shipment gets arrive at the port. The destination port. So they give you like extra 20 days, on the ocean. So, but normally that's the term we get.
Okay.
It changes. It's all depending on the volume. Like there's what Jason described as the general basis volume, but past a certain size, depending on the industry, again, like durable good like stainless steel or cast iron, like, or a thing like that, like require higher volume. If you're more in fashion or textile, then it's a different kind of term.
Okay.
Also, if you're working with, let's say, a Western company, let's say, or trading group that have factory in China, like usually like those group like can finance you as well. Like you can pay only when in your warehouse, or even like in some case, like recently, like we had a pretty neat deal, like where it's actually at the warehouse, but you only pay like when you actually consume it, and they actually like charge you just for the warehousing fee. So that's great for cash flow. But yeah, all depending with whom you're working and the type of industry you're in and the volume, of course.
Great. Yeah. And it's important that you mentioned the term cash flow. I mean, do you guys have any recommendations there, in any way to kind of expend less cash upfront? Are there any sort of other just quick, because we got to get to the there in a second.
Yeah.
But just on that topic quickly, any other sort of recommendations around partners that are either online or that are easy to kind of leverage to kind of improve cash flow, paying less upfront potentially?
I would say beside volume, like, which is the easiest way, like to get access, like to good trade deals and also relationship over time, it's really doing a lot of research and finding your supplier. Don't pick the first one that you find. They're tough to find. Like there's some, of course, like there's Alibaba that can be used. It's a nice entry door like for that, but do your research in other market, North America, Europe. There's still a lot of people like with and groups that have factory everywhere in the world. And once you pick a good partner, you can leverage it. So, but it really has to do with the size of the partner that you're finding, your manufacturing partner. So a lot of research can deliver a huge payoff, I would say.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you for that. So let's just transition now to the there, right? Again, theme here is from here to there. Keep the questions flying. We're going to discuss the there for about 5 minutes or so. Specifically, what to do when the goods come into your destination country, whether it's the US, Canada, Western Europe, Australia. I know a lot of you out there are selling on Amazon. A lot of you are either selling directly on Amazon or through multi-channel. So we're going to discuss fulfillment as well. Then the last 15 minutes or so, we're going to do Q&A. We're going to read some of the questions, so keep them coming, and we'll hopefully get to as many of them as possible. Thank you. It's really, really fun seeing them coming through. So Jason, on the there, once the stuff comes in, once your goods arrive, let's just say into the US or into Canada, because I think those are your primary markets. Can you walk us through a little bit, what is the experience like of selling on Amazon? And then we're going to talk about multi-channel, but let's just get right to the kind of the heart of the matter. What is it like selling on Amazon, and especially managing multiple brands on Amazon? What has your experience been?
It's a big hassle. Amazon, they're being more and more picky on the order preparation, stuff like that. They're getting even more picky right now. So when I first started working at Nolk, we are Amazon only seller, and at that moment we only work like one Amazon prep center.
Mhm.
And this kind of, Amazon prep center, normally they're pretty basic. They only handle something like storage. They can slap the Amazon label, you provide it, and they can palletize your goods and ship it to Amazon. It's pretty basic, but there can be some problem happen in the middle. For example, like when they ship the goods from the warehouse to Amazon, there can be delay all the time because especially in high season, Amazon, they have tons of receiving during the day, and sometimes it can take up to 2 weeks or even 3 weeks to receive a shipment. And so my top one suggestion will be plan ahead. Like and also ship more to Amazon at once. Don't ship 2 boxes once to Amazon. It's not cost efficient, and at the same time you don't have buffer. If sales surging in high season and you only have 2 boxes of goods storing on Amazon, that made no sense. So normally what we do is we store the goods in Amazon prep center based in California, US. And then we transfer the inventory on a monthly basis. And we transfer, a few pallets or even more than 10 pallets in high season. We transfer the inventory from our warehouse, the Amazon prep center to Amazon. That's pretty much what we do.
And just for reference, when you say high season, which months would that be usually for you, for Nolk?
Well, yeah, November, December for sure. That's, Black Friday, Christmas. I don't have the exact number, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong. I think like 30% of sales come from December, something like that. It's
yeah, roughly. Historically, this will change again this year, like as we brought like new brand into our mix.
This year there is no Christmas, actually. Just
this year we don't know what will happen. Yeah, exactly. But there's still, even with COVIDs and stuff, like you can see like the similar seasonality pattern. But of course, like April was a funky month.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
And I guess when China was stabilized, so it kind of pushed everything off by 2 months.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of production. Okay. So when it comes to Amazon, and then I guess now you're not only selling on Amazon, obviously, you have many different brands in your portfolio. Each of the brands has its own website, and then each of the brands has its own kind of fulfillment strategy. So walk us through the multi-channel approach. Some of the tips, I guess, you could share with us how to manage, both selling on Amazon, getting inventory into the FBAs, but also managing directly via your own e-commerce site, or if you're selling through other channels as well.
Yeah. So my first recommendation will be having like external software, like ERP, enterprise resource planning software in place. That's very important for multi-channel fulfillment. To avoid any manual work, because actually like the ERP system can definitely capture all the information from all different sales channels, put it in one place, and you can allocate these orders to any fulfillment center you want. Even Amazon, I'm not sure if everyone knows about it, Amazon can actually fulfill multi-channel orders. So if there's an order,
I don't think most people know that. Can you explain that in a little bit more detail? How that works?
Yeah. So in order to do that, you have to find like an ERP system that can link to Amazon system. Okay. And every time when you see an order, you can actually reroute the order to the fulfillment center. And Amazon, you can choose standard shipping, you can choose expedited shipping, you can choose priority shipping. So Amazon can ship it out with their shipping account, which is amazing. Like their shipping is even, I would say, more like cheaper than 80% of fulfillment center in the US. Like, I mean, third party fulfillment centers in the US. So you can definitely take advantage of that.
Okay. And do you recommend, like, in terms of, does Nolk have its own warehouses? Do you use third party? Are you using any sort of other, fulfillment companies for any part of your inventory?
Yeah, right now I have one Amazon prep center because we have some brands that are Amazon only. So I definitely keep one Amazon prep center in California. Okay. And also I have another 3 fulfillment centers actually, because I had a hard time trying to find the best fulfillment center in the US. So right now I kept all these three. Eventually I'm gonna,
Best
merge.
meaning, what are the criteria of best?
Best, there's so many criteria. It's hard to summarize, but yeah, I can say some definitely. Yeah. Like some are definitely like their fulfillment speed. Customer, e-commerce, as e-commerce evolve, it's very important for customer to to receive their order ASAP. I would say like within 2 or 3 business days. So for the fulfillment center, it's very important for them to process the order on the same day or within 24 business days. Business hours. So this is like the kind of industry norm. Other than that, it's better they have some kind of digitalization capacity, which can link or integrate it with your ERP system. That's definitely more important as well. That's more scalable for sure. And also in terms of, return, because, like in e-commerce return rate, it's definitely higher than retail. And it's very important to be able to handle all these returns efficiently.
What are the differences generally between the two?
Well, you mean retail, between retailer
and e-commerce? Is it 10%, 20% more?
I don't know the exact number. I would say at least 10% more, because they don't like it, they can return it for no reason, right? And we provide shipping label and then just drop it off at the postal office. No hassle for them. They can just return it if they don't like it.
Right.
So it's definitely, return, I would say reverse logistics, handle return. That's another criteria to look at. That's all what I have on the top of my head.
Criteria, in other words, when you're choosing a third-party fulfillment partner, that they're good at not only fulfillment, but also the reverse in terms of refunds or how they manage that process. Because that's important to your brand as well, obviously, the ability to not only, there have been many case studies written about this, that trust in a brand that they're able to then also handle refunds as well. So cool. So just one final question, and then we're going to go into the chat, to the Q&A. So I just curious in terms of the if you have any advice or leverage, what does it come when it comes to Amazon? Is there any sort of flexibility in advising warehouses or being able to ship to the West Coast versus the East Coast when it comes to kind of engaging with Amazon, requesting certain warehouses which will be either cheaper to ship to, which in general have better, like you said, better, faster, better appointment schedules, etc. Do you have any tips in terms of like managing that relationship with Amazon to kind of get, your preferences honored potentially?
It's for Amazon, it's so automated process. So you can enter your warehouse address, and Amazon will automatically allocate the nearest fulfillment center, to ship. Personally, I don't really have any good suggestions on that because I have been, storing my products in California since the very beginning. And the reason why
Which is good. That's cheaper usually from a shipping standpoint, transit time standpoint. Yeah,
it's cheaper and also it is faster as well because we mainly, import product from China. And, it only takes 14 days port to port, from China to California. It's definitely, so transit time, it's shorter as well. But other than that, I don't have much experience on it, to be honest. But I do think it doesn't make big difference, I think. Maybe you can try, I believe that New York or other East Coast or West Coast, it's pretty much the same thing because in terms of volume, it's similar, right? So I'm not sure, to be honest.
Pretty transparent with Amazon anyway. You send to one warehouse and you don't know what happened after. Like they distribute it like.
I thought maybe Jason, you had a personal relationship with Jeff Bezos or something like that.
I really hope so. So I don't have to call their customer service 7 times to figure out the problem.
Yeah, with Amazon we have that rule of 3 times. If you have an issue, like you have to call 3 times to get it solved. Like,
well, that's 2018 rule. Now it's 7.
Oh, it's 7. Oh, so there's an inflation there. So inflation of call.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Cool. So Nomi, you're going to be sharing some questions that are coming up. I've also seen some, by the way. I know that we missed the last slide about obviously COVID-19. We tried to discuss that, but why don't we start with that question in terms of have you seen any? And then Nomi, I guess you'll ask the subsequent questions. Have you seen any? Obviously you have, but can you walk us through one or two challenges that you've seen, Jason, since I guess March, April through the present, and how you overcame that? Specifically in terms of the pandemic, any sort of changes that affected your supply chain and how you overcame those?
Yeah, so the major impacts on us are mainly lead time. Lead time not only from China to the US, that's only part of it. And also, on courier side, I mean, from the order fulfillment center to the end customer, that's also a lot of delay as well. Customer were pissed, and we had to, make sure they're well informed beforehand. Mm-hmm. And also on shipping costs as well. I remember we had to ship one air shipment during that time. And I remember the air shipment normally it's like $3 or $4 per kilogram. And at that moment it was $8.50. So it's actually triple at that moment. So what I did, first of all, I definitely did some analysis to see if we are still making profit if we ship by air, because if we are not making any profit and just to get sales, it made no sense, right? So definitely what I did, first of all, is to make sure we are still profitable after shipping by air during that time. Because thankfully the products is kind of high value products, and it's definitely it make more sense to ship by air at that moment. Also, other than that, will be on the sales side for sure. During pandemic and people are not shopping, especially in the outdoor category. We have, we sell backpack at that moment, and it wasn't selling that well because people are not going outside for sure. Yeah, also on the order fulfillment side on Amazon, I believe, people are definitely more interested on that. On Amazon during that time, they remove Prime. So normally they guarantee, to fulfill the order within 2 business days, and customer can even receive it in 1 business day. But at that moment, Amazon extend this fulfillment speed from 2 days to actually 30 days. And our sales dropped significantly. And the strategy I came up with at that moment was to create some FBM listing. So FBM means fulfilled by merchant. So we actually handle fulfillment by ourselves. Because, thankfully I have multiple fulfillment center. I have, fulfillment centers as well outside of Amazon. So for some brands, I can do this FBM listing and fulfill this Amazon orders using my own fulfillment centers. So this definitely recovers some sales. I think we recover at least 20 or 30% sales thanks to that strategy. I think that's all, because we don't sell, medical equipment at that moment. So really, like in terms of shipping, it's from China to the US. It doesn't really affect us that much. But we definitely have more impact in terms of order fulfillment side.
Great, very helpful. That's a great answer.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Ari, Alex, and Jason. That was really, really informative and interesting. So let's dive back into the Q&A. So starting off, we have a question from somebody named David. How did you identify your logistics partners, freight forwarder, warehouse, and fulfillment? Jason, do you think you can answer that one?
Sorry, could you repeat? I'm sorry, I was...
Sure, no problem.
Yep, please.
How did you identify your logistics partners, freight forwarders, warehouse, and fulfillment?
Identify. So warehouse and fulfillment center. So first of all, I can answer fulfillment center and warehouse. And I mean, warehouse is major a place to store products. Right, and fulfillment center is we use different fulfillment center to fulfill orders. So as I mentioned before, Amazon we have warehouse to store Amazon goods, and we have warehouse to fulfill orders. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
Maybe you could focus a little bit more on how people choose their freight forwarders. How do they know which freight forwarder to select and who to work with?
Okay, on freight forwarder side, I've been working, with Frito since the very beginning. Thanks to Alex, he found the platform. Actually, like before this job, I was a freight forwarder personally, so I know the business a lot.
I didn't know that. That's a good trivia.
Yeah, so actually,
you smile. I think you smile a lot more now since you've been at Nolk, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, before, even during my vacation, I have to keep my one eye open because there's always problem happen and customer reach me out, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, for freight forwarders, it's a very mature business, I would say. Like there are tons of freight forwarders. So for me, two criteria when I choose freight forwarder. First is the pricing for sure, because everyone is basically doing the same job, and a competitive rate, it's definitely important. And second will be the customer service, because it's during shipping, we cannot avoid problems, right? Because there's always a problem happening in the middle. Human make mistakes. So it's very important the freight forwarder can react fast and they can provide excellent customer service. When there is problem happen, they can be more proactive and solve the problem immediately. At least open communication, being transparent, stuff like that. That's very important. So that's why actually I like Freightos, because there are customer service on the freight forwarder, and definitely there are customer service at Freightos as well. When there's problem happen, I can definitely open the ticket with the Freightos customer service, and they can step in and figure out the problem together with me. So that's something I really appreciate.
All right, cool. We're running short on time, but I'm going to ask this quick question from Amanda. What are you doing to plan for peak season? And what percentage of your volume do you expect to move over peak season?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically, throughout the year, I place 4 orders in total. I mean, one order will be in December. That's mainly for orders in spring. And one order I'll place second order in March, another order in June, and my last order in August. So the order in August will be the order I prepare for high season. So because normally, high season lead time, I would say from placing an order until the shipment actually got arrived at the warehouse normally takes 3 months, from 1.5 months for production, 20 to 30 days for shipping, and 5 to 10 days for buffer, something like that. So normally for high season, I place order in August to avoid any problem, to just make sure, if problem happen, we have a buffer to, to make sure we have stock. And also one other thing I want to bring out is that make sure you place an order in December, because there is Chinese New Year every February, and the whole China's actually closed for a month, so they don't do any production during that time. So if you place an order in January, they will not be able to finish in 30 to 45 days. They probably need even 60 or even 70 days to produce. So make sure you place an order in December. Make sure they are informed in advance.
Okay, cool. I see we have some more questions coming in, but I think we're out of time, but we really appreciate everyone submitting questions, and we're going to try to follow up with you afterwards, so you can keep sending us questions. But I wanted to thank everyone for joining, everyone for contributing questions. Thank you, Jason and Alex. This was really, really great, really informative. We learned a lot from you. Thank you, Ari, for asking such great questions. We hope to see you all next time. And if you're interested in being featured on a future episode, just reach out to us. We're happy to speak to you. We'd love to feature you. And check out our exclusive Facebook group, Freightos.com Insiders. So there you connect with other importers. And thank you again. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, Nomi. Thanks, Ari.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.